Yeah, pretty much it was just me and Tim, and that was it.
Tim?
Yeah.
Tim, the head of FD Appleton?
Yep.
Okay.
You ready?
And Hulu.
By the way, is anybody going to the Drupal Camp Wisconsin/Madison this weekend?
Next weekend?
Yeah, 23rd, 23rd and 24th, Friday and Saturday.
That's in, as you said, is it Madison?
Yeah, Renenbaum or Renenbaum Hall over on the west campus.
I'll keep you posted. I don't know if I'm planning anything, but usually.
Well, I'm just announcing it. Make sure if anybody's interested, you should go.
2.2 apparently is what's currently on here, so, or at least the mono develop anyway.
Since we're talking about like hacks and stuff, is that GNOME do on the bottom or what is?
Yes, it is. It is GNOME do on the bottom. Yeah, it seems to be the one dot that works pretty well. Like everything else, is either kind of boring or doesn't really work very well, in my opinion. But anyway, so for a few things, obviously if you want to use mono develop, you'll certainly want to make sure that it's installed and everything.
Can you talk about it? I mean, do these applications that you develop run on Linux and Windows, or?
They'll run. They should. Most of them, yeah, they should run on both. Unless, I mean, obviously, you could certainly put dependencies on there that would make it difficult to run on the other. But yeah, most of them they should run should be able to be run on both of them.
And who is the Free Software Foundation / GNU parent of this, or
no? They're not even sponsoring it.
I think it's just an article. Doesn't Novell have a little bit of a?
Yeah, Novell pretty much owns mono.
Okay.
I mean, they bought out Zimian, which is that's the group that Miguel de Casa. That was the company that Miguel de Casa founded, and then they got bought out by Novell. And so they developed this. So yeah, you want to make sure that mono develop is installed along with GTK Sharp, because that's the GUI system that you'd probably be using if you're developing on this, as well as NUnit. I also found out last night as well too that the debugger does not get installed, at least on Ubuntu, when you install all of this stuff. So you want to make sure that gets installed as well too.
What's it called?
The debugger? It is called... It's mono develop. Debugger. And then there's two of them. There's both the MDB, which is the mono debugger, and then GDB, so you can get GDB support as well too. And I have them both installed on here. So you want to make sure those are installed. I would also strongly recommend NUnit if you're doing unit testing, which is usually a good idea for any kind of object-oriented programming, really. So I will start out showing you how to start a new solution. If you just want an empty project, it's pretty easy. Just create a new empty project. So you can do sample project or whatever, and you have some pretty nice features with this. You can include some packaging support as part of it, and so you can have it create some an archive of binaries, including Windows binaries if you wanted to, or tarball, or both, or whatever, along with making sure that GTK Sharp support is in there, translation support, and you can even generate stronger Unix integration into it too. So that's that. And so then when you bring up an empty file, it'll just look like this. So you want to, of course, add a new file.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, a solution is like a project or a
Yes.
program?
Solution is a project or a program. So it's the thing that keeps track of all the files that are relevant to what you're going to need for compiling it. Okay. And so this is this tab here. I can't really see it on the screen, but there's a tab over here that sort of is your sort of shows your solution, everything that's part of it, all the files. And there's different tabs as well. You can just go to a class browser in here. There's unit testing, unit tests, so you can take a look at all the tests that you're running on your program, as well as a file directory, browser on here as well too. So you have that. To add a new folder in here, it's pretty easy. You right click onto the solution, add new file. You can add a new empty class.
And for those of us that aren't familiar with either .NET or Mono, this appears to be object-oriented.
Yes, it is very, very object-oriented. It's very similar to Java in a lot of ways. Very similar. In fact, in some ways, it's sort of the descendant of if you took Java and add some niceties to it. That's really what it is. So it'll automatically, when you add a new file, if you're adding it as a class, it'll automatically generate all the files that you need for it. And so this is just a default constructor here that does nothing, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do, just as a quick demo, I'm just going to create a really quick hello world here.
Is it C#?
Yep.
Okay.
And as you can see, it has pretty good code completion on here, so it does that pretty well, actually.
Ooh, it'll be.
Mm-hmm. And you can go ahead and run it. Run. And it'll show you the application output right down there. It's just this line that was being written to the console. Alright, so that's how that works. It's pretty easy to set up a new project. I'll show you what it looks like when you're starting a new GUI project. So if you want to actually write a GTK application, you can do that pretty easily. Give it a name. And of course you'll have all this stuff in here. And so when you run it, it's got a pretty simple window. I'll build that and run it. Or maybe it won't do it. Oh, there it is. It's taking a little while. There it is. So it doesn't really have anything on there right now. It's pretty boring. If you want to be able to change that up a little bit, you want to go to, it's called the main window, and you can actually pretty much just visually design it however you want. In order to actually add anything, though, you need to make sure that you first add a container. It's sort of this thing that will manage all the widgets in a particular section of the window, and you have a bunch of different kinds of containers. You can have a table, you can have a notebook, which would have subcontainers to manage the widgets in those. A vertically aligned, so you can have a bunch of elements vertically aligned like that. I'm going to go with that here just for demonstration purposes. I'll just go with 2 rows in this. And then once you have that in there, you can go ahead and add various elements to that. So you can add, I don't know, you can add a combo entry box and what else should I add?
Let's do a color chooser. Those are always fun.
Oh yeah, I haven't done one of those in a while. Where is it? I don't know why, but we can do that. And so if we go to one, bug, same thing. take a little bit. It's a little bit faster when you actually build a release program, but a little bit slower because it's debug. But so that's a pretty simple window. I already actually have something that I kind of put some code into it, so that way, well, I can report that. But I'm going to go into something that I kind of completed already, but I'll still be able to show it. So this, I kind of put some sample code in here so I can demonstrate a few things. I'm going to go back through this here really quickly. One of the things that's really nice about this, it has built-in refactoring, and it's really good at doing what it does. So if you wanted to rename the class account, you can do so. So let's say, I don't know, money tracker. You can call it money tracker. If you want to take a look at what kinds of changes it will make when you make that change, it's you can take a look at a preview for it. You can see all the different things that are referencing it with diff running on that, and so you can take a look at that. If you're kind of curious and wondering what it's going to do when you do it. And so then now everything that was referencing money tracker, or I'm sorry, account, is now called money tracker. So that's been changed. And another thing is that MonoDevelop has a really, really nice little thing called, Mono and .NET have these things called properties. If you guys aren't already familiar with them, it's basically like in a lot of object-oriented languages. If you have a private property, like this balance value here, you'd have to create separate functions in order to create an interface that won't that won't screw up your private variable like that.
You mean
so
like getters and setters?
Yeah, getters and setters. So you'd have public float get balance, right? And you'd have a function that will return balance, and that's all it does. And then you'd have to write a separate function, of course, then for set balance.
Does it allow you to return nulls?
Oh.
Because I'm assuming that's why.
Yes. You can. Well, you can return. You can return void, or not return anything really. But then, so then you would have float amount, right? And balance is equal to amount. So you would have to do something like that in something like Java or C++. And that's pretty typical. Whereas with .NET and Mono and everything, with C#, you have these things called properties. So that way it looks like a variable. It looks like just a regular variable, but instead of when you actually reference that property, it'll actually call a function. And MonoDevelop has this really nice thing where that kind of thing is actually already integrated. So you can already go into encapsulate fields. If you right-click on there and go on the class, go to encapsulate field, it actually already knows about all the different fields that you might want to encapsulate. You just put a check mark next to the ones that you want to encapsulate. It'll automatically give you this. It'll give you this property here, and you don't have to have both a getter and a setter. You don't have to. If you just want this to be read-only, you just have to delete the set. Or if you just want it to only be writable, then you delete the get. So that's pretty easy.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty cool. And I'm going to purposefully take out a couple of options because I'm going to show the unit testing here really quickly.
So it's called NUnit?
Yeah, the library that it uses for unit testing is NUnit. So if I were to run this right now, it should run just fine. take a little bit. So I'll bring up this window. But if I were to actually, I have a test here. So it uses the NUnit framework. It's pretty easy to actually set this up because when you go into the add new files, it's actually already got a sync, so you can actually automatically generate those test fixtures automatically with it. So you have that, and it'll generate something like this, because I think it'll ask you what class that you want to test. And so it'll generate a file for that. And so if I were to run the test on this here, yeah, it is. Oops. If you run the test on that, and you go to your test window, you're not going to see it on there. Go here. You'll see that there's an error saying that it ran that function, ran this right here, the transfer funds function here, and it was expecting, of course, 250 for this here right here, but only got 150. So you can certainly, if you wanted to, you can take a look at the stack trace for that. And of course, to fix that, you would have to go into here, and you'd go. Okay, so you take the destination dot deposit mount, and then this draw. You can use the functions internally like that. And so if I were to run that, run the test on that, that should make it all pass.
Just so I'm understanding, I'm noticing that your classes, the functions all start with a capital letter.
Mm-hmm.
How do you distinguish between the API and the functions that you create?
The functions that you create, I mean, it's going to be kind of dependent on what kind of variable naming policy that you decide to create for yourself, but a pretty standard one is that usually the public functions will have the camel case like this. I think that's usually pretty typical in a lot of places, is that you'll have a camel case. And then anything internal is just going to have lowercase. And any private or protected functions is going to have, I usually use like underscores for private and protected variables and functions personally. So, but I guess that would depend on what kind of variable naming policy and function naming policy that you use. So that's the way that I would do it anyway. That's the way that I usually do it. What else was there?
What about error handling? Is it good error handling?
Error handling? Yeah, it does. If you can, you can throw exceptions and all that kind of stuff and catch exceptions. I haven't really put any in here, but yeah, I mean, it definitely has the ability to do exceptions, and right now I'm having a hard time thinking of how to do it right off the top of my head. But yeah, it does have that ability. It's pretty similar to the way you do it in C++, actually. So you'd have try, catch, throw. So I think that it would be try. No, let's say I want to do try. Then catch, so you can catch any number of exceptions. I think that there's just a general exception class that you could use, catch any exception that there's out there. And so if you wanted to do right line message. So you can certainly write the message out to the console if you wanted to, and then throw E. So you can do that. So that's sort of pretty quick write-up of what it would look like to do try, catch, throw. I think that should compile. Yeah, that works. So that's pretty easy. There's no way. I don't think that there's any reason that those functions would ever throw an exception. There's really code is pretty easy. And then, of course, you can go into the designer and make more buttons. I added some buttons already as a way of showing how that works last night. And so the data view here is actually, there's a text label that's right here that you can't see, but you can manipulate the variable name over here, and it's got signals. You can manipulate, and so it's got all the different events that the signal will throw. You can certainly catch any of those. And this one already defined. Actually, I already defined two signals for those two buttons. There's the add 5 signal, and so it'll catch that event that when it's being clicked. So on add 5 click, and same as the subtract. So when I run it, and just add 5, subtract 5. So that's how. That's a pretty quick overview of MonoDevelop. And so that's how that works out. It's pretty. If you're familiar with Visual Studio, it's going to be pretty familiar to you, because a lot of it is based on a lot of the same kind of concepts. So a lot of the inspiration for it actually does come from MonoDevelop. So that's pretty much how that works.
Can I ask you a question just about terminology there with C#? I don't know what you call them. Maybe the members of C# class are attributes and methods, and then what are these properties?
The properties?
Is that
the properties is a way of being able to, instead of having explicit get and set functions, as a way of having an interface to your private variables. Okay. So that's what the property is. With the testing, yes, there's something called attributes. That's what these things are. All right. Basically, it provides metadata information. All right. So this basically it tells NUnit that these functions are the ones that it should use to do the testing on the money tracker class. So it's a way of being able to create a pointer in the code for other libraries or other programs to be able to look at what's in there. It's basically metadata information for it, and you can manipulate that however you want to. You can actually create triggers on them, or functions on them, so that it will actually do something whenever you create one. A lot of times you'll actually use that as a way of being able to interface to do a p invoke. That way, that means that you're going to be using some native function from a library, right? From a native library, and I think I'm trying to remember. how you do that. I don't remember. I don't really do p invokes all that often. So I'm trying to remember off the top of my head how that works. I think it's like EL override, something like that, and then you would have your whatever it is. I don't know. libqt in there and .so, something like that, and then so that would tell. I think that's right. I'm not completely sure. I'd have to look it up, but that's sort of what it would look like, and that's what it means to be able to p-invoke. And then you would actually have to, once you've done that, you actually also have to declare. You have to put a declaration for the function that you would want to use. So I'm trying to remember a Qt function off the top of my head. I can't really remember any off the top of my head. But so let's say if there's some function static that returns, I don't know, a bool? No. Getting things mixed up. An integer. Let's say it returns an integer, and I don't know, but it does something. So it returns a float. I don't know, and Qt create window or something like that. And so, and then you'd have to also declare what arguments it takes. So you would have to make sure that you declare those. I don't think that's the right syntax for that. I'm actually pretty sure of it. But somehow you have to declare the syntax for any external, or you have to declare the what it is, what the function is, what it does, what kind of arguments that it takes. But I'd have to look that up, right? Because I like I said, I don't do p-invokes that often. Really, I usually have to look it up. So that's what that does. Anybody have any questions on that, really?
So the using at the top, that's like an import statement?
Yes. The using, actually not really. The using is actually more a declaration that you're using this namespace. So if you noticed, when I go into here, there's this namespace font black sample, and then same in here. That means all these things are occupying the same namespace, right, within the code. And namespaces, of course, is just a way of being able to ensure that different variable names and function names and all that kind of stuff don't conflict with each other. So you could, if I wanted to create an Appleton sample class in here and have another money tracker, I could do that pretty easily, and I wouldn't have any issues with namespace, with the collisions of the names. But if I were to have a using for both the Appleton sample namespace and this font black namespace, I'd have to be more specific with my whenever I am referencing them. So I would have to, instead of doing just this money tracker like this, I'd have to say font black sample dot money tracker, and then I can declare my variable, right? So I would have to be much more explicit if there were name conflicts in the namespaces that I'm using. To actually for referencing other libraries, for linking and that kind of stuff, you actually that's pretty simple. What you do is that there is, what is it? No. Project references, edit references. If you want to go into edit references, it'll bring up a list of all the different libraries that Mono Develop knows about. So you just put a check mark next to the ones that you're going to be using. Okay, so you can certainly use something for Cairo, or some of these other ones that are in here. So there's a bunch of them that are out there. If you need one that's not in the list, you can go ahead and just search for it in here, and then just add it, it'll add it into this list of references down here. So you can do that, and that's how you would do linking with this. And actually, I can show you really quickly where I am referencing a library that's not actually installed on the system. This is something I haven't been working on in a long time, but I'll open this up. I actually got reference to the the C# or .NET version of GStreamer, which is still in beta phase right now. So there wasn't anything I could download. But if I were going to go into edit references here, you can see there's this. I got this down here that shows that it's not a system installed library. It's something that's a part of my home directory here.
Is GStreamer being actively developed?
I believe so. I haven't really looked at like any of the mailing lists, but I think it's just like one person that's developing the .NET GStreamer code. Yeah, GStreamer itself is being actively developed for sure, but I'm not sure about how actively this one is being developed. GStreamer Sharp.
In the Venn diagram of GStreamer and active .NET users, I don't think they're all.
Yeah, it's pretty small. It would be pretty small. That there's no lie with that. Yeah. So that's sort of an example of one where, like, if you're using just some library that you have sitting in your home directory there, you can do C and C++. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not much better than just your regular whatever editor that you like to use. I actually really like Emacs personally for C++. I don't know. Just seems to work for me. But so you can create Appleton sample ++. Okay. I think it should have given me a main file. Pretty simple. But like if you wanted to add a class, you really, it's the options that you have for it. Doesn't really, like, if you add a new header file, it doesn't really give you a corresponding or any options for the class. You you have to do it all manually. So you do that, and you just do your header. Do that, and you do class, right? And I don't think it does any I don't know if it does any what do you call it? Completion for C++. I'm not really sure. I haven't really tested it out on here actually. So if I were to do cout, no, not really. Doesn't really seem to do anything. Should, if there was some sort of.
Does it have an option where you can set that up?
For
different ones have different plugins for different languages.
There are certainly plugins for other languages, but like I said, it's really only good for .NET development. For everything else, I really honestly wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't have any kind of deeply integrated support for it. It really doesn't. And so I'd personally just rather use a regular editor. And that's my personal preference. It does have. I haven't done anything with VB.net, so I don't know how well that works, but I would assume it works pretty well. I know that it also has version control, but it only supports Subversion, which I don't really use. I use Get personally, so I'm not really sure how this works. But it is in there. It's integrated into the system. But I've never used it, like I said. So that is available if you want it.
Subversion is the only thing available?
Yep.
Well,
Right now
why
it's
did
the
you
only.
give them radio buttons if there's only one option?
Because I assume that they want to add more. I don't know. That's my assumption, is that they want to add more. They just haven't gotten around to it yet. Yeah. And it's got a lot of pretty large number of options. I mean, if you wanted to change up the style of formatting and all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely something that's available in here. I do apologize for this the color scheme on here. My widgets, it's not the best one for seeing things, but so you have that, and what else is in here? It was a lot longer speech last night, just because there were certain points where like I was actually coding in some of the stuff in the Fond du Lac sample solution here, and just adding code here and there just to make the demonstration a little bit more impactful, I guess you would say. But
You've impacted us enough. It's okay.
Yeah,
all right, good.
this is brief demonstration day anyway, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Actually, does anybody have any questions about mono?
I have one question.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does it work with Perl?
Pearl?
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure. There might be. That's the way I would know. Is if there's a plugin for it, it would actually show up in that list.
No luck.
Because I know that there's one for Vala. There's a
What about Ruby?
Ruby. Yeah, there's one for Ruby as well too.
Python?
I think there might be one for Python.
Well, if you want to use Python and .NET together, you can use Iron Python.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, Iron Python is definitely available. Well, Python does have a Python plugin for that, so you could certainly use it for that. I'm just kind of curious, what is, if we were to do Ruby.NET application, what is that going to look like? Pretty simple, pretty easy. So, yeah, there's that. That's mono develop in a nutshell.
So before you turn on, or at least unplug the computer, can you just tell me a little bit about your distro setup as far as what you've done to customize and view things the way that it is? Because it looks like you've got a fair bit of customization going.
I've certainly got Compiz running on here, which is pretty nice. I will say it's pretty sweet. I like it, and I've customized the way that works up to Wazoo. As you saw, I've got GNOME Do down here running, and
I'm seeing KDE settings in here too, so you're running GNOME right now.
yeah, because there's still like a few KDE applications that I absolutely love. There's one in particular I love, Amrock. Absolutely love it. I will not use another one. Except for, actually, I shouldn't say that. It's not completely true. I'll use Risenbox mostly because it has, it's already running.
Integration into the taskbar?
No, not that. It's because it has support for the Ubuntu 1 music store.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why. And actually, the Ubuntu 1 music store is actually really nice. They got is it? Do I have one?
What
Yeah,
format is the Ubuntu One Music Store under?
MP3s.
Is it MP3s?
Yeah. It's I think it's 384K bits, something like that. I don't remember. I'm putting it up here. I have internet connection.
Yeah, go to a web browser and type in guest.
I already did.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay. I don't know, but it's really high. It's actually higher than anything else I've seen. I haven't seen anything as high quality music files in like iTunes or the Amazon Music Store or anywhere else. It's really high quality, and it doesn't have everything. I think they have agreements with EMI, a bunch of really small labels. I don't remember any of the other major labels that they have agreements with. It's not actually them themselves. They're partnering with particular service. I can't remember, but they're not actually. They've already partnered with a company that's already went out and gotten all these agreements. So they're not. They haven't done all that. Went out and gotten all the contracts themselves because there's already a company that did that. It's like something 7 or whatever. I don't remember. But yeah, so I use Risen Box for this. And that's pretty much it. Is just get music from here because it's pretty awesome. Although Canonical did say that they're planning on making an Amarok plugin someday. So
in here you're actually theoretically you're connecting to the music store through your media player.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like iTunes,
That's pretty sweet.
essentially.
Like iTunes.
And I don't believe iTunes works on yours if I want to.
No, I mean it does.
Yeah, iTunes does that in Windows and
I
Mac.
have to log in. No wonder. That's why. I forgot about that. But, I think iTunes doesn't work very well under.
But the operation.
Yeah, we're talking about similar functionality.
Yeah. I wonder if that'll needs this work.
I wouldn't classify this as a streaming internet connection. So
No.
anything that we do that requires loading things from the internet tends to work slowly.
So
That's
you
all right.
don't want to watch Netflix? Is that what you're saying?
Probably not. Yeah, I was like, show us Hulu Desktop. I was like, no way, don't show us Hulu Desktop.
Hulu Desktop is pretty cool.
It is cool. I agree.
So, 9.2 garbage. Well,
And they're going to start charging people with the iPhone for the Hulu desktop?
It sounds about right.
Well, they have a subscription thing, so that way you can access HD and you can also access, instead of only like the 5 most recent episodes of a show, you can access like entire seasons. So, because a lot of the shows they'll have like the last 5 episodes and that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is annoying when they're on episode like 23.
Right.
And you haven't seen it at all. You're
I
like,
know.
great. In order to learn more about this show, I can watch episodes 18 through 23.
I know, right? I have no idea what's going on here, but I think I like it, maybe. Right?
Exactly.
And there were some shows that are, of course, not in cycle, like Buffy, and they'll give you full access to the entire series for that and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what the subscription thing is for that. Yeah. Oh, and the if anybody's curious, the Ubuntu One cloud sharing thing is cloud storage thing is pretty neat, actually, because so all these files are automatically out on the cloud. And you can share them pretty easily. So if you wanted to put image onto there. It's pretty easy, and then you can copy the URL.
And they were talking about integrating Ubuntu One in with some of the mobile phones, if I remember right. Some of you were
They actually have pretty good. I mean, if you go to, they actually do have an API for it, so you can, if you are willing, you could certainly write up your own interface to it. Launchpad projects, I think, something like that. So yeah, you can go in here. Not all of the entire Ubuntu One thing. They for the actual server they use some proprietary stuff for that, but most of it is pretty open.
CouchDB is open, isn't it?
Yep, CouchDB is open. They use that. For the most part, yeah, it's pretty open.
They use it in quickly.
Yeah, CouchDB is a non-relational database that's used in Quickly. I think Dropbox uses it. Ubuntu One uses it. In general, it's pretty awesome.
And I'll put in a plug-in for Quickly, because I've talked to Ross about it. Quickly is an easy application writer. Like Blaine.
Let's show off Quickly.
I've not actually really used it before.
I think it's quickly developed.
It's
I don't know what
Quickly-
syntax.
Or quickly designed.
project, quickly help first, and then I'll give you all the options. It's to make a project, you type in whatever it says. Create, yeah.
Create whatever sample.
Project,
Sample. Project name. Oh, Ubuntu application. Okay. So you want to do that application. Oh, and I also have bash completion installed on here. So it automatically completes. If you notice that when I did this, it'll do that, and then I double tap on tab. It'll bring up that application, and I can do quickly sample.
And I think
Yes.
quickly design brings it up after this, if I remember.
yeah, and it's big, yeah.
So hit enter and then put quickly design. Well, as soon as
No, you
Okay.
CD into the directory, and then you.
you have to change into the directory.
Yeah, which they. That's-
Oh, there it is.
It makes an application that you can easily change.
Yeah, it uses Glade for the user interface.
And you uses quickly Blade. You type in quickly. They could make it, but it's command line, a couple command lines.
Not as bad as it could be, though.
And the guy, there's one that showed how the guy did in one command on how to add, cut, paste, just in one line of code. And I was just like, wow, blown away with that. Because just one line of code, and you have cut, paste,
Nice.
edit.
Yeah, well, basically what quickly sets up is it sets up a file menu. It sets up minimize, maximize, and close. It gives you that text box. It gives you that image, but it'll allow you relatively easily using Glade to change that stuff.
To change
and basically, because you can use this as your main window and change it into whatever you want pretty easily and quickly. And
So you go CD into the quickly sample.
Should I exit out of this?
yeah, you can.
Okay.
And quickly CD into this, and then
Yeah, just
quickly.
try,
Glade.
quickly design.
Or, designer Glade.
The old version used to be called Quickly Glade, but
So I just wait for it.
I think so.
There it is.
There we go. So that's Glade right here.
And you have the same boxes that you can add
Yeah.
We're having resolution issues. Usually there's more real estate to work from. But
Yeah, it's kind of small.
basically, the middle is your actual program.
Mhm.
The right side is the code and already created properties. The
Yeah.
left side is different things, containers, buttons, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And there's there are some tutorials. There's actually Dude and Linux Journal in the most recent magazine did do one, and also there's a tutorial from within the program. I think it's quickly tutorial.
Yeah, do a quickly tutorial.
Well, you could, but it would take an hour to go through. So
Okay. All right. Maybe not doing that.
And then there's quickly edit, which if you do quickly edit, it brings up the code,
In your
which
preferred
binds
editor.
it to the
yeah.
The Windows.
So if your preferred editor is Emacs, well, no, it looks like that.
I don't know how to set that.
Oh yeah, it brings up your default editor, but you can change this behavior. So basically, all of these tabs are the code that already exists for your program, and so it's almost completely set up with events and whatnot, so that there's very little you have to add in order to finish off a program if you have even something resembling code that would work on the command line.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I like it.
it's really nice, well done. You just add one line of code in each one of these, in the about dialogue or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Just go through the quickly.
Well, the
tutorial.
other thing about quickly is after you're done with the actual code, I believe there's quickly publish, which basically I believe sets you up with your own PPA, your personal package archive, packages it up as a dev, and makes it available for everyone on your architecture. So it's instead of having to do all of the packaging back up and making sure that it works, it basically, it tries to, as best as it can, take all of the kind of annoying work out of, okay, I've actually made a program that works, how do I get it back out to people?
Mhm.
It'll package it up pretty well for you.
And there's also another program called ACIRE. And what that does is basically a sample code in Python that shows you how to write certain boxes or widgets, whatever you
Yeah,
want
it's
to do.
code snippets.
Yeah, snippets.
It's a code snippet browser for, I think, Python, right?
Yeah, Python.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Not on here. I don't know if that's the right one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's in there someplace. We're just kidding. It doesn't exist. April Fool.
I think it's ACIRE.
It's something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
which one.
I hadn't heard about that.
I'll post it.
Anything else anybody saw that they're curious about on my desktop?
Honestly, Memo would be interesting, but I think it probably merits its own day.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably would.
Do you have an N series?
I-
Do you have
N900.
You have the N900?
Yep.
Sweet. What service are you using?
AT&T, because that's the only 3G service around here.
Yeah. Well, technically, you can actually buy an N900 and use AirFire, but I don't think it's 3G, so you get slow service, which is not as much.
I would totally get T-Mobile because they have the compatible 3G frequencies for it, but they're not available around here. Kind of sucks.
So I'm assuming, did you get the 900 straight from Nokia?
Yep, I did. It's completely unlocked. I don't even think they sell it locked.
Yeah. Well, you can get like a root prompt just by I think like it's SU, and I think they give you like the root. Which is
SU
awesome.
gain root.
Yeah.
Will give you
That's
root.
it. SU gain root.
Yep. And you can actually also install a full Debian image on here if you wanted to. I actually
Really?
did that. Yep. That's kind of fun. Mostly I did that because I was missing. Oh, there's a command line roll dice program I sometimes use, and I wasn't able to get it. I wasn't able to get the Debian package to install on here because the libc dependencies are too old on here. So I'm like, well, let's just install Debian and I'll get it that way.
Could you do VNC on that?
I can do VNC on
I'm
here.
pretty sure, yeah, in the Memo App Store, I think there's a VNC client.
There is. It's pretty sweet.
When I first saw that, I thought it was
Yeah,
amazing.
well, the N900 is an awesome phone, but the apps that are available, you can't say that they
They're the
approach
greatest.
Android or
Right.
or I mean, does it have WebOS feed?
Hmm?
Who has more apps, WebOS or Memo?
Probably WebOS. If I were to take a bet, I'd probably guess WebOS. But I mean, it's kind of hard to say because a lot of it is ported apps. You know, like I said, you can install a Debian image on here. So you have access to the full Debian library for the most part. So you could, I mean, theoretically it has more, but they're not really native, quote unquote. I mean, they're native applications, but you're running it basically in a Charut jail.
Okay.
So it's Debian inside of a Charut jail, and so it's not really. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you understand where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
But so applications specifically made for it, probably you'd probably want to go with WebOS. But other than that, plus of course it doesn't really have much commercial support either. There's like a couple of commercial applications that you can buy for it, and that's about it.
Are you planning on installing Migo?
No.
So Memo all the way for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with Memo. So.
For those that don't know Migo, Migo is Intel's Moblin project, and the Memo project decided to merge
Yep.
and make one product for both handsets and netbooks called Migo, and they have like I think a pre-alpha or something, or like an alpha out now, but there's nothing. I wouldn't say there's anything usable yet, but theoretically, when it does become available, it'll be another interesting and potentially useful netbook/tablet/handset OS to compete with Android and WebOS and
That is the idea.
the iPhone OS 4 and Windows Mobile 7.
Seriously.
Loser.
Did you hear about the Kin? 2 months after they brought it out with much fanfare, they decided to take it from the market in disgrace.
Yep, that was funny.
I'm going to take a video break here.